Hey there, welcome back to some more Let's Try. This time, this is something weird that we're going to try today. We are trying more or less IO's game, and we are going to try to determine uh the IMDb ratings of certain movies. I really like movies, and this might be good for banter and for what they call this for anecdotes and whatnot. Since obviously I like movies, I watched a YouTuber play this game, and it's basically you try to guess the IMDb rating of certain movies, check out if it's higher or lower, and then you just try to get the highest score possible. So, yeah, it's basically that. So right now, it's free. I'll send the links of the website in the description below. The website also has different genres like check the Rotten Tomato score, how many subscribers YouTubers has, etc. etc. Okay, now The Invisible Man in 2020 versus Seven by 1995. Honestly, I watched The Invisible Man in 2020. I hope you can see my cursor, by the way. I watched The Invisible Man in 2020. I've seen Seven the titles, but I haven't really watched the movie. I remember this movie being one of the one of the one movies in like one of the very cool movies, but I think it's lower. Never mind. Pff, let's try again. I haven't watched a very old movie, so this is gonna be very hard for me, especially when it goes to 1990s. Okay, Pixels 2015. I watched this movie. I remember it being uh kind of meh in general. By the way, all of the movies it's based on my opinions as well as if I watch the movie or not. This is kind of hard for me in the later parts, but this is obviously very easiest choice of my life. Parasite was one of the best Asian films, so obviously it's gotta be higher. And Captain Marvel in 2019. So you know what? Let's just talk about since this is gonna be hard for me in some of the games since I really like most movies, but let's just think about the IMDb ratings. If you don't know the IMDb ratings, basically like a website where you can see it's like Rotten Tomatoes, but way what do you call this? Way older, I think. I'm not really sure. Yes, that's just my thought on it. Captain Marvel 2019. So in Captain Marvel 2019, I remember obviously it's gonna be lower than Parasite, since Parasite is one of the highest rated movies. Plus, it won an award. But however, Captain Marvel, I remember it being good. I remember people having mixed feelings about it since it kind she kind of feels overpowered, and that kind of ruins the in some what do you call this in some movies it kind of seems overpowered. It kind of seems not fun. Plus, I'm gonna change the screen ratio a bit. It's going out of what do you call this? It's going out of the screen. It's kind of weird wherein she is really overpowered, and once she gets her power, she basically just destroys everything. Like I think that's one of the problems why, for me, uh people like Superman I'm less inclined to like Superman movies rather than Batman movies. I know I'm talking about DC here, but you know what I mean, right? Like uh how movies when portraying overpowered characters. That's why I really like in the Endgame where she actually went into later parts. So the efforts of the people who don't have that much power is validated. Anyway, that's lower obviously. 6.9. Fantastic Beasts. Okay, this is challenging. I know people didn't like Fantastic Beasts or like not really like it, but it's not that as like as Harry Potter series in general. However, okay, here's the thing. In IMDb, it's basically if it's a superhero movie, it gets a higher rating. If it has very well-known actors like example Johnny Depp, people would actually like it higher. If it's a horror genre, it's gonna be lower than usual. And if it's like something slow paced or something what they call it, something slow or like something not actiony sci-fi, it's gonna be lower than usual. So this stuff maybe we what do you call this, I think it's higher. No, 6.6. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, this is easy. Emoji Movie 27. Even though I haven't watched Primer, obviously nothing can beat 3.2. Like 3.2 is a very low score. But yeah, Emoji Movie, it just kind of was a very messed up. Like it was very random, as I can say. Like I know it's a weird product placement movie, but the way they made it, it kind of seems like the product placements in movies doesn't feel like essential to the story, more like a sidetrack, which kind of ruins the fun of the Emoji Movie overall. Plus the jokes were not really that good. So yeah, like yeah, it's fun and all, but as a movie, yeah. So obviously this primer's gonna be higher, even though I haven't watched this. Okay, now this is where it gets. I'm kinda challenging. I swear, very high ratings are way easier, and very low ratings are way easier to figure out if it's higher, lower. Un like unlike when it's just an average sixes, sevens, etc., etc. So okay, so Transformers. I remember watching Transformers. Like I watched every Transformers, like even the very recent ones, and I can say that in Michael Bay's movies, Transformers 1 to 5, the quality, like I hope you can see my mouse. The quality from the very start, like the Transformers the original, is kinda like up here. It just continuously goes down, 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 down. Except for I think Bumblebee, it kind of went up a bit as compared to. But I think Revenge of the Fallen, I remember, I remember people like pretty average in Transformers 1, 2, and 3, and Revenge of the Fallen I think is the second one. So it's not that low yet. But I think since given it's an action movie and sci-fi, I think it's way higher than 6.9. It's just a 6. Okay, that was my bad. Okay, can we get a very high score here? Okay. A Fantastic Beast, Crimes of Grindelwald versus Hobbit, Unexpected Journey. Okay, here's the... Okay, we talked about the Fantastic Beast and, you know, the buff of... The score buff of having famous actors. However, the Hobbit... Okay, here's the thing. I heard... Like, yeah, I watched Lord of the Rings 1, 2, and 3. I watched Hobbit 1, 2, and 3 as well. I've heard that um obviously Lord of the Rings is a way better movie and it's gonna be higher than The Hobbit. However, people didn't really receive Hobbit very well. Yeah, I like the movie. I basically like all movies I watch. That's kind of given. So you will hear that a lot. I like the movie. However, in watching The Hobbit, I think people actually didn't like how it was filled with CGI and some aspects didn't actually make sense, like how the fight scenes, etc. And I remember that one singing. I'm not sure if it was in the second movie or the first, but there was a singing main villain in a cave. I think it was a goblin or something, or maybe a troll. I'm not sure. I just remember that scene. However, given it's a fantasy and it's an action, I think in IMDb it's way more popular. So I guess it's gonna be higher. 7.8? Wow, I expected it to be lower given the consensus of most people online, especially YouTube, social media, etc. Okay, X-Men Days of Future Past. This was actually a very interesting movie. I didn't many people were like mixed about this, but one thing cool about this was the movie wherein after X-Men First Class came out, if I remember, and people were wanting to figure out a way to make the feature actors, or like the quote unquote old actors from the original X-Men, can meet the X-Men Days of Future Past, or the newer generation of X-Men characters, the younger ones. So this was one of a genius way to make it, like to make a crossover that spans time. Like yeah, if you watch No Way Home, spoilers by the way, you can see old villains there, etc., etc. So I think it's not gonna be as high as 7.8, so I bet it's lower. It's an 8? Okay. Obviously, my opinions on movies are very mixed or suck. Or like it sucks. Since I really like most movies overall, so I will probably rate movies more or less the same. And Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. Love this movie. Love the Lord of the Rings movie. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. Okay, here's the thing. Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Mm, Obviously, I think there are five already. But Dead Man's Chest was the second movie, I think. Yeah, that was the second movie. I really like the first three Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and I'm kind of mixed with the fourth and the fifth. However, overall, obviously, I said before, they have that famous actor buff that people really like. That's Johnny Depp here. Plus, Orlando Bloom is in both of these movies as Legolas, as well as, what do you call this name? I forgot. Yeah, basically he's both in movies, and I don't think it's higher than 8.8. It's 8. Let's go. Okay, Narnia, Prince of Caspian. I remember the Narnia was one of the first attempts in movies to try to, like after Harry Potter, I think, like to make a book into a movie. I love the first movie. I also like the second movie. However, one problem that they did in obviously the whole Chronicles of Narnia is that they didn't actually follow the books in terms of chronological order. Like yeah, obviously, uh the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was after. I was before Prince Caspian, and the Voyage of the Dawn Treader was after. But they didn't go through the first book. Like I think the first book was not. Yeah, obviously it was not Lion and the Witch and the Wardrobe. I don't remember which book was Prince Caspian. However, I like this movie. Like it was fun when I was like when I watched this when I was younger. But I don't think it's gonna beat Dead Man's Chest. It's a 6.9. Wow. Okay, Dark Knight Rises, obviously this gonna be high, very high. It's one of what do you call this? Critically acclaimed Batman franchise, the Dark Knight trilogy. I didn't really go into much of what they call this into the Batman series, but however, I really like Dark Knight Rises. I like how they portray the characters. I like they portray the Joker, etc. And there, it's gonna be higher than 6.9. I swear. If it's lower, okay, 8.4. Okay, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince 2009. Obviously, it's gonna be lower than Dark Knight. However, Harry Potter movies, it was one of the best, for me, in my opinion, one of the best film adaptations of a certain book. Since obviously, it spanned throughout many years before the MCU, before anything else. Harry Potter was one of the movies that spanned over a long time, so you can actually see the actors grow. You can see how from a kid, Harry, Hermione, Ron, Neville, all the other characters develop not only in character but as well as physically. So, as a watcher, as a viewer of the audience, you can actually see or like have a physical, what do you call this? A physical reference on what timeline it is in the movie. So yeah, it's gonna be lower. 7.6. 12 Years a Slave. I remember this. First of all, I'm not. It's my memory is kind of vague. I'm not sure if I watched this already, but mm, okay. So here's the thing. In IMDb, what they call this? In IMDb, people like yeah, it's gonna be different from obviously consensus of people. In my opinion as well. 12 Years a Slave, if I remember correctly, is a drama movie. Yeah, it's basically what they call this. It was it these types of movies, the one that shows a message. It's kind of like a historical sense and in the Civil War. But here's the thing: in IMDb, I don't think these types of movies can be either hit or miss. It can be either very good or very low. I think it's gonna be lower than the Half Blood Prince because in Half Blood Prince is more accessible to the general populace. The themes here is a much more mature theme, and I don't think it's gonna be higher than 7.6. It's an 8.1. Okay, I obviously don't know how IMDb ratings work. So yeah, let's try it again. Django Unchained in Underwater 2020. Underwater. First of all, Django Unchained, the one of the highest rated movies in IMDb, if I remember correctly. But I know Underwater was a horror thing. It's a horror movie. And I remember in IMDb, horror movies really get either underrated or just rated very low. So obviously it's gonna be lower. Let's go 5.9. Contagion was this is a very appropriate movie during what do you call this? During what do you call this? It is a drama film, if I remember correctly. However, what do you call this? Uh, basically, it's about a certain type of disease that kills people. But I don't think 5.9 is really low. But I don't think it's gonna be higher. I mean, lower than 5.9. So it's gonna be higher. Okay, Sweeney Todd is I hope the let me check the OBS first before we go thing. Since you know. Okay, Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of the Fleet Street. So, if I remember correctly, this is a musical. Yeah, it is a musical movie. And I don't think it's gonna be lower than Contagion. Since you know, in IMDb these types of movies have like quoting on a buff. Plus it's a really good musical. Musicals are always most of the time good. Don't talk to me about Cats by the way, but it's gonna be higher. Let's go. Okay, Lego movie. This is gonna be hard because I have a bias for Lego movie. I really love Lego. I really love how they made the movie. Okay, here's the thing. Lego movie actually pioneered the style for the Lego franchise in the movies. In the past, Lego movies were like fully animated, but in the Lego movie, it's still CGI. But the style itself is actually reminiscent of the stop motion of the Lego. And I really love that. Like, even though the plot is kind of generic with, um, what do you call this? With Chris Pratt as the main character, it's like the normal guy trope. It kinda makes sense in a Lego movie, which I kinda thinks would rate it just maybe high, a low eights or something like that. Just maybe. Let's go 7.8. Okay, Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3, obviously, it will have the Marvel buff or like superhero buff plus the sci-fi. This stuff, like Yeah, Iron Man 3, or like basically any third of a certain movie, is gonna be way lower than the first one. Iron Man 1 was one of the best. Iron Man 2, I really like all Marvel movies. I'm an MCU fan. So I'm just basing on the opinions I've heard from my friends, from critics, or like from social media. So I think Iron Man 1 is gonna be like in the 8s, and it's gonna be lower from there. So I assume it's gonna be lower than 7.8. 7.8 is pretty high. Let's go. Okay. that was that was pretty close. Okay, 7.2, not bad. Okay, 2012, 2009. Obviously, this was a very weird movie. It was basically about the Mayan calendar ending a certain date, and people would expect Doomsday to be in 2012. It's kind of funny that it was pioneered, I mean, it was shown in 2009, and afterwards, one thing, like, the hype of these movies were, it's basically on that time. So after 2012, this is gonna be a very funny movie to look back to. Like, as I watched this, like, I don't know, like a year or two ago, I kind of like laughed at the entire premise of the movie. I swear it's not gonna be higher than Iron Man 3. I'm gonna tell you that. So yeah. Wait, the Fate of the Furious. I don't know uh which of the Fast and Furious movies this is. If I remember correctly, Fast and the Furious series were generally well liked. And I'm not sure what happened in Fate of the Furious. I haven't really. Oh, I remember this. I think I'm just looking at the poster, by the way. Uh, if if I remember correctly, 2017. That was the movie. I'm not sure if this was one with the plane falling, or was it the one with the submarine, the snow. I'm not sure which one. Maybe it's the same movie, and I'm just talking about the same movie overall. However, I remember people generally liking the Fast of the Furious franchise after a few movies, since it became just more absurd and more over the top as the movies went on. So I think my theory is that this is gonna be higher than 5.8. 5.8 is pretty low. 6.7, let's go. Bloodshot. Okay, here's the thing. I'm not sure if I watched Bloodshot the movie. So since I haven't really watched this, I bet it's gonna be lower than Fast and the Furious. 5.7, let's go. Okay, Men in Black 3. Obviously, it's gonna be higher than 5.7 since it's Men in Black. It has Will Smith. It has what do you call this? It has Tommy Lee Jones. It has what do you call this? It's Josh Brolin as a younger Tommy Lee Jones. It's kind of fun. It's kind of like a fun movie. Plus, it doesn't really butcher um the idea of Men in Black. However, the only thing I think that people didn't like about this is that Tommy Lee Jones was not really there. Like, yeah, it's Josh Brolin, but it's the same character. It's Agent K younger. But overall, I really like the movie. So I bet it's gonna be higher than 5.7, obviously. 6.8, let's go. We're on a roll here. Terminator Salvation. Okay, here's the thing. As I said, the third movies, and this not the third movie, by the way. Terminator, any sequel of a movie is either gonna perform worse than the first movie, since people would have expectations already, and generally it either would be on par or worse. There are rare moments wherein sequels are actually better than the previous ones. So here's the thing. Terminator Salvation, love the movie. I like the Terminator franchise. It's not gonna be. It's tough, man. Like, I swear the average sixes and sevens is gonna be harder. Okay, I'm gonna roll the ball here. I think it's gonna be lower than 6.8. Since, Men in Black, more comedic style with action rather than just pure action is gonna be more appealing, I think, to the IMDb people. Okay, let's go. Okay, King Kong 2005, not to be mistaken by the old King Kong movies in 1930s, by the way, or the Kong Skull Island. So I remember King Kong in 2005. I remember watching this. I have vivid memories of this. This though, it was the very disgusting worm things eating a person alive, or the one getting eaten by bugs, or the one getting crushed by everything. I remember this being a very good movie. If I remember correctly, Jack Black is in this movie. And yeah, I bet it's gonna be higher than 6.5 since let's look at the wider scope here. Like even though I like most of the movies, if you see King Kong, people would actually know it more than Terminator. So I bet this is higher. Let's go. Okay, going back to The Hobbit, Unexpected Journey. It's the first movie of The Hobbit, and it's not as action packed as what do you call this? It's not as action packed as what do you call this? It's not an action packed as the. I mean, yeah, it's still action packed as compared to Battle 5 Armies. So I think what do you call this? I think that the Unexpected Journey will have. I'm not really sure. It's this stuff. I remember it. I remember the what do you call this? I remember the score of this being like a 7.6 or something, so it's gonna be higher. Let's go. Okay, this is funny. The image is still Hobbit: The Unexpected Journey. Okay, there. Crawl. Obviously, this is gonna be lower than 7.8. I remember watching Crawl. It's basically like there's a flood, a crocodile in a certain area gets loosed, and your people are trying to avoid this. Okay, here's the gripes I have with these types of movies. These types of movies actually give a bad rap to the animals that are actually in the main show here. Like for example, Jaws, it really gave a bad rap for reputation for great white sharks. So obviously this not gonna be as high as 7 point. It's gonna be lower. However, like yeah, it's these types of movies. It's a type of movies where you watch it. It's not okay. I'm not saying bad things about the movie, but it's kind of like one of the movies like you just want to turn off your brain and just enjoy what's happening, or like don't think about it too much. Plus, it has a thriller debuff here, so yeah, it's gonna be lower. 6.2. Okay, at World's End, what do you call this? I love this movie. I think it's uh one of my favorite parts of the Caribbean movies. And for one thing alone, if I remember, At World's End was like the culmination of the trilogy. I mean, the Pirates of the Caribbean, Black Pearl, The Man's Chest, and World's End. It's the culmination of the trilogy. But yeah, it also has the trilogy debuff on it. So obviously, it's gonna be higher than 6.2 because it has the Johnny Depp buff, Orlando Bloom, the famous actors buff. It also has very good soundtrack. I mean, the score is very amazing in the movie. Uh, Plus, what do you call this? The action scenes, 10 out of 10. The pirate battleship scenes, 10 out of 10. So I think it's gonna be like in maybe had the high sevens, or maybe I'm highballing it. It's an 8. Let's go. Okay, Shape of Water, kinda awkward movie for me. However, it was a very interesting premise about a person falling in love with what do you call this? Basically this. If you can see this image right here, it's basically this, and the premise of them, or like the movie just figures out how it came to this. Obviously, it's not gonna be 8 is pretty high, but there is that kind of quote unquote very slow, not really slow paced, but not actiony movies. It's gonna have that type of debuff, but so I think it's gonna be lower. 7.3. Whew. Okay, this is where it gets tough. When you have two movies that are spaced very long from each other. I remember Sex in the City. I don't have really much memory about it. It's not gonna be 7 because it has that like the 7 movies. I don't think it's gonna hold up the standards now. But yeah, it's pretty fun, so I think it's gonna be lower. Okay, here, X-Men Dark Phoenix. Many I don't know what's happening in the X-Men movies, but they never can really get the arc of the Phoenix really well. Like they tried in the previous generation, they also tried in this generation. Yeah, it's gonna be lower than 7.1. People didn't really like this. Avengers Endgame, obviously, it's gonna be very high. One of the culmination of how many years spanning. Forrest Gump and Avengers Endgame. What are you doing to me, man? 1994, 2019. Okay, here's the thing. Forrest Gump, one of the best drama movies that I have watched. Plus, there's Tom Hanks in it. So, uh, here's the thing. I think it's one of the most critically acclaimed movies, so it's gonna be very high. Eight, but it's IMDb though, so I think give its IMDb, it's gonna have that buff of old movies, so I think it's gonna be higher. Ford vs Ferrari, I think this is gonna be lower since I think I watched some clips of this. I haven't really watched the entire movie, so yeah, it's gonna be lower. 8.1. 12 Angry Men. I remember this being. I remember watching this, but I don't remember I don't remember the opinions of people on this. I remember there were two types of movies in 12 Angry Men. I remember, what do you call this? This poster. I remember this being in the most recent one. I'm not really sure if the same one, but yeah, it's one of the best movies. Oh, I remember one of my friends told me it's one of the best movies ever, so I bet it's gonna be high. Jeez, it's 8.9. Oh my god, I didn't expect it to be that high. Winnie the Pooh movie, the recent one, it has a very nice message to it, but it's gonna be lower than 8.9. Monsters University. Okay, here's tough one. Monsters University, obviously, it's not as good as Monsters Inc. However, it is backed up by being an animated film. Plus, it's very famous. So I think it's gonna be. Okay, here's my theories. Okay, first of all, uh, what do you call this? First of all, Winnie the Pooh movie, very nice message. Monsters University, very nice message. It's gonna be close, man. I swear. I think I liked Monsters humor, so I'm just go with my gut feeling here. Oh my god, a point 0.1 freaking difference. Okay, I think Mad Max, the old one, not the new one. I think voice crack there. I think this is gonna be lower than Monsters U. It's pretty old, and I watched this. It's not really like yeah, it's fun, but it's not as fun as Monsters U. I 6 point. Okay, Dark Knight. Obviously, this is gonna be higher. People really like the Dark Knight series. 9. What the heck? I expected it to be 8. A solo Star Wars story. Okay, here's the thing. Star Wars, I love Star Wars. Solo Star Wars movie, a very great movie. It's not as good as the original movies, and I think most people agree with this, but it's a really nice side story about the origins of Han Solo. It kind of explains some recurring plot points. I mean, plot holes, like how people thought that, what do you call this? parsecs was actually a time in the past, and it was kind of explained that the reason why it was a very good feat is not like the Kessel Run really required a certain amount of parsecs, and if you made it lower, it's kind of like plotting a new course in the Earth. So yeah, it's gonna be lower than 9 though. 9 is pretty hard to beat. Man of Steel. Mm, I don't think it's gonna be higher than a Star Wars movie though. But I think I might bite. Oh, frick me, it's 7. Okay. So yeah, this is more or less io.com. I hope you enjoyed it. It's kind of weird, let's try for me. I just really like movies, and I saw a YouTuber play this, and might as well put my hat in the ring. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll put the links in the description below. It's just a free website, so yeah, you can try it out for yourself. Uh, if you like the video, click that like button, subscribe for more, put a comment. It helps the algorithm. See you next time. See ya.